All right. Section 9.3, video number 1, about the trigonometric functions, the infamous sine, cosine, and tangent. So let's talk about sine, cosine, and tangent. In all these cases, we're going to have a right triangle, and we're going to be looking at an angle. That little symbol that looks like a 0 with a line through it is called a theta. It's a Greek letter, and it just represents an angle measure or a number of degrees. So in this case, we have that theta and this angle over here on the bottom right of this right triangle. And so if we look at this angle, sine, cosine, and tangent are going to be ratios of our triangle. So each of them is going to take an angle and give out a ratio of sides. So sine of theta is the opposite over the hypotenuse. And so the opposite side is the side across from our angle, across from our theta. We already know our hypotenuse is across from our right angle. Our adjacent is going to be the leg next to our angle. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So make sure you get those down. That's something that you're going to have to remember. Sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Cosine is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, and tangent is the opposite side over the adjacent. One way people try to remember this is to remember this kind of nonsense word, SOHCAHTOA. So SOHCAHTOA is that word that's up at the top of this page. And if you look at it, you can just remember SOHCAHTOA. You can remember all of these ratios here. So the first 3 letters are sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So if you have trouble memorizing these, just try to remember the word SOHCAHTOA, write that down, and you will know what these ratios are. All right, so first thing we're going to do is just look at how to write these ratios if we're given a triangle. So here we want to write down sine of A, cosine of A, and tangent of A. So first off, looking at this triangle, let's think about what our opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse would be for this triangle. So we're looking at A. Our opposite side is the side across from A. Our adjacent side is our leg next to A. And then our hypotenuse is our side across from the right angle. So hopefully that will help you as we write out these ratios. So here, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so it's 33 over 65. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so it's 56 over 65. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so it's 33 over 56. All right, so if we look at this triangle and try to determine the value of these trig functions at angle B, our answers are going to change slightly, because here our opposite and our adjacent are going to be swapped, because now 56 is opposite the angle we're looking at and 33 is adjacent to it. So if I'm going to write down sine of B, our answer for that now is going to be 56 over 65, and cosine is going to be 33 over 65, opposite over hypotenuse and adjacent over hypotenuse respectively. And then for tangent, our answer is going to change as well, because our opposite and adjacent have changed. So our answer here is going to be our opposite 56 over our adjacent 33. So when you're doing these trig functions, look at the angle and then determine which side is opposite and which side is adjacent. We can also use trigonometric functions to solve for a missing side of the triangle. So for this, you're going to need your calculator. And the first thing you want to ask yourself is, this angle that I'm given, okay, where is that? And these sides that I am looking at, one of them will be known, one of them will be unknown. So we'll have a variable and we'll have a number. What are they in relation to that angle? So in relation to 41, what is x and what is 6? And so hopefully you know that x is opposite 41 and 6 is the hypotenuse of the triangle. So which trig function involves an opposite and a hypotenuse? And it's okay to look back in your notes if you need to answer this question, but the answer to that question is sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So we're going to write sine of 41 degrees equals our opposite, x, over our hypotenuse, 6. How do we solve for x? We just need to multiply both sides by 6. So x is 6 times sine of 41 degrees. Now you can type this expression 6 sine 41 directly into your calculator. Now make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. So a lot of calculators have different modes for different types of angles, some of which you haven't learned about yet, called radians. And some of them default to radians. So make sure you're in degree mode. If you can't figure out how to do that, ask a classmate, ask me if I'm there. If it's a sub, ask the sub. But if you aren't sure, you can always try typing this in and see what answer you get. The answer you should get should be 3.94. So if you didn't get 3.94, that means you are not in degree mode and you need to switch to degree mode. So definitely try to figure that out. Raise your hand, talk to somebody, get your calculator into degree mode before you move any further in this video. All right, this next one, we want to figure out y. We're given a 65-degree angle, and we also know that one of the sides of the triangle is 33. So here we want to ask ourselves, 33 and y, what are they in relation to the 65-degree angle? And hopefully you know that 33 is opposite the 65, y is adjacent to the 65. So which trig function uses opposite and adjacent? Tangent does. So we write out tangent of 65 equals our opposite 33 over our adjacent y. Here we need to solve for y, but that's going to be a little bit challenging because y is in the denominator. So what we need to do is first multiply both sides by y. That will give us the equation y times tangent of 65 degrees equals 33. Now, this is the point where some people, I think, get a little confused about these trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent. So now remember that when we take sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle, that's just a number. So this tangent of 65 right now, that's just a number, just like any other number. It's a little bit of a weird number, but it's just a number. So this equation is the same as if you had 3y equals 33. It's just y times a number equals 33. And if we want to solve for y, what do we need to do? We just need to divide by that number, right? If we divide by that number, we'll have y by itself. So we do 33 divided by tangent of 65. Just like before, you can type this directly into your calculator. Make sure you're in degree mode. How do you type that into your calculator, you might wonder? You would just type 33 and then the division symbol or fraction bar, and then hit that tangent button. Of 65. If you do that, you will get an answer of 15.38. Sorry, 15.39. All right. So now time to pause the video, try to solve for A and B. All right. Here are the answers you should have gotten for A and for B. For A, you should get 5.25, and B, you should get 3.25. How do you get that? Well, for our first example for A, your trig function is cosine. Cosine of 72 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So what do we put in our calculator? 17 cosine 72. For the other one, what's the trig function we need? Well, this one should be a sine function because 2 is opposite, b is hypotenuse. We solve for b by multiplying by b, dividing by sine of 38, and getting 3.38.